So we have just seen Out, and we have the creators with us. So if you could introduce yourself, who you are, and your role in the film, please.
My name is Dennis Alink. I am a writer, producer, director, and there's a very tiny moment in which I play a German sound guy.
My name is Thomas van der Gronde. I'm the producer and I wrote the story with Dennis, and I was the cinematographer of the film.
Wonderful. So starting with, I guess, cinematography, what was the choice between having it in a stylized black and white? Why?
Well, this is our first fiction film, and we are originally documentary filmmakers. And we kind of wanted to bring that documentary approach to this film. And part of that is that we like to embrace the reality as it comes to us. So embrace that and use that in the shots. And shooting black and white creates a lot more opportunities to embrace sets as they are, since you don't need to worry about color. And you can be a lot more free with light and using the light as it is, and incorporating that into your visual style. And also, Tom is a character who sees the world in a kind of grim way, so it also worked in that aspect.
That's interesting that you have the documentary, I guess, style towards creating a fiction film. So the ending being it felt very natural. So was that intentional to have it something real? There was no major fantastical ending. I'm apprehensive of saying exactly, so I don't know if you don't want spoilers online, but it was the intention of writing it also documentary style.
Yeah, for us it was very important to keep it as close to reality as possible, because we wanted to paint a picture of a relationship that broke up in the gay scene, or queer scene for that matter. And I think it's very important to not exaggerate stuff, because the queer community can benefit from a honest, unexaggerated view on the community. Very often in media you see an explosive side or an overly extravagant side, and obviously when it's there to embrace it. But we thought that sticking close to realism and try to make it as real as possible was very important for the nuance and the ambiguity in this film.
Yes, quite an interesting
Can I add
approach.
something?
Yeah.
I'd like to add that when we wrote this film, like, all of that was on the table at some point. I mean, we've had a dramatic ending, almost a suicide, where Tom falls off a bridge, and when we thought about it, that was garbage. It's not how life goes. When relationships end, they can end with I'm ordering a coffee and Tom's walking away, and that was the end of something really precious to them. But that's what life is. Yeah.
It's interesting because we've had kind of these kinds of conversations throughout the day of we don't want to see so many just sad queer stories where it all ends in tragedy. A lot of creators are actively trying to create, like, share queer joy, so having the more positive spin on their films. I also wonder why filmmaking? Why was that the direction that you wanted the main characters to go in?
Could you explain it a bit more?
So why was it going into film school? Why was that the character's main drive?
Well, because the main character is mostly driven by his ambition and not by his sexuality, and that's what sets him apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah, I think a queer life is very well possible with a lot of different interests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to show. It's nice that you're working towards showing someone who just also happens to be queer, rather than this is a queer film. Did you actively try to keep a queer cast crew, or did you just work with whoever you worked with?
We have a very queer cast and crew. I think this is the queerest film made in at least the Netherlands, might be West Europe. We had some heterosexuals on the film, but they were very rare. We were actually trying to...
They were cooperative.
Yeah, well, we tried to sniff them out. And we tried to throw them away. Actually, someone who contributed music is actually a heterosexual, and he's here in the audience, and we're trying to embrace it as much as possible. Like, it's okay to be heterosexual as long as you're not going to make it my problem.
It's good to have that tick box, just of acceptance.
Yeah. Well, there should be a place for heterosexuals, but you want to keep the production fun. Let's be frank. I mean, look, a queer person never started a war. I'm not so sure about that, but we have press conferences in which people claim much wilder things these days. So I think that's about right, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have fun moments on set?
Well, we had a blast. You can say blast, or is it a ball? I'm not sure. A ball is much more northern English, right?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yes, it is.
There you go. There's that token northerner.
Yeah. Well, Morrissey would say we would have a ball, but we're saying here we're having a blast. Yeah. No, it was real fun. Production was great. We went to Berlin. We had lots of great dinners. There were some moments that were a bit tensionous. For example, the dark room scene. My then partner actually came to the set to get the keys of my house, and was completely shocked by the 25 naked men who I was directing, and he tried to start a fight about that. But nevertheless, we were entertaining ourselves. There were a lot of moments that we won't see so often again in life.
Yeah, and this was created in a very indie way. Tom's wearing many of the clothes that Dennis is used to wear when he was in that age, and
Still am. Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah, and we shot it in a chronological order, so there was quite some room for adjustment and seeing where that story was going to go. And it was quite late in the process that we found out that we wanted to end with a scene that mirrors the opening, and Tom gives up his seat.
Yeah, I quite like the contrast of Dennis. Sorry, I've forgotten the filmmaker's name.
Oh yeah, I'm Dennis.
In the
Tom.
character Tom.
Oh yeah, but
sorry.
But that mistake has been made more often. There are some, how do you say, comparisons going on. Similarities. Yeah.
Well, this is not a similarity of what I'm about to say, but I quite enjoyed the comparison between Tom, who struggled to be likeable and work with people, compared to his partner, who was very, very much out there. Are the actors like that? Like, are they similar to their roles?
No, I think that Bas Keizer, he plays the part of Tom. He is pretty close to his part in a certain way. Yeah, he's more of an introvert. Jefferson plays a Johnny. He is more of he's pretty much outgoing. Well, there are certain characters for which I changed the dialogue because I knew they would talk in a different manner, and so all these characters are basically fictional or sometimes based on other characters. But I did alter dialogues to make it more fitting for what I feel comfortable with, and I don't want the actors to all talk like me. So it's good to be inspired by how people are talking. Yeah.
And where is it the film came from? So how did it all come about?
I'm gonna give that one to you.
We self-produced the film. We shot it chronologically, and eventually it got picked up by a distributor, Cinemine, who also just distributed the film in England and throughout most of Europe. And then it got into the Frameline Film Festival, which you probably know is the oldest, biggest queer film festival in San Francisco. And then it went on a festival tour in America and Europe. And now it plays theatrically in most of Europe, so Spain, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on VOD in the rest of Europe and North America, and it will be on Amazon Prime here.
Oh, that's amazing. Because one of the questions would be where can anyone who can't get to festivals be able to catch the film? That's quite exciting that it's had quite a big release. Have you had a lot of interactions with festivals that aren't inherently queer festivals?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Dutch, the New Orleans Film Festival in the United States is not queer. The Dutch premiere was at Film by the Sea, which is more of a literature festival actually than it doesn't have a queer section, for example. So it there's a again, I do not hate heterosexuals. They can come and see the film, and they are allowed to screen it. And there have been also some heterosexual cinemas, or it's been featured in heterosexual cinemas. So we are open to that. Yeah, and they can embrace it. Yeah.
It's wonderful to be able to share these stories with queer people, but then it is that level of like, should straight people be also watching this, to have that level of normalcy, and it's no longer something that you're surprised to see on the big screen.
Precisely, but I think queer cinema has been working on that for the last couple of years. If you take a look at Brokeback Mountain got a heterosexual audience. I think Call Me by Your Name got a heterosexual audience. So I don't think we have to divide the world in queer and heterosexual. I think we can tolerate heterosexuals.
Just about. Sorry.
If they act normally.
If they act, yeah.
You're throwing me off my questions here.
I'm so sorry about it. That's not my intention.
Do you both as creators try to continuously make queer films or create queer artwork, or is this the first time that you've done that?
Our documentaries before this one, we have made some theatrical documentaries. They were very heterosexual. We've been working on a very, very heterosexual Netflix show. It's the most heterosexual show we've ever worked on. But right now we're working on another queer documentary, and we're in the pre-production and the writing of a new theatrical film. Which is trying to search the line between queer and heterosexual even more, because there are characters who are not heterosexual or still believe they're heterosexual, but the main conflict is not sexual identity. So it's gonna be more colorful. It's gonna the line between queer and heterosexual cinema is gonna be thinner in the next one, but not in the next documentary. That's also again about bisexuality, and this one has a lot of men. That one doesn't have any men at all. So it's going to be very, very non-white, non-male, non-heterosexual, as it's ever going to get.
I hope we get to see that here, because that sounds quite exciting.
We can talk about that. Yeah.
Do we have any audience questions?
I do. How did the distributor come around? Like, were you showing the film in markets, or how did this distributor come on board?
We have 3 different distributors. The American distribution was signed after the San Francisco premiere. The French, the French distribution. That's a funny story for you, Thomas.
Yeah, in fact, we did a Netflix series that was in France, and had some lovely French colleagues who could help us write French emails, and yeah, that's how we got
French subtitles
and make French subtitles as well, and that's how we sold it to a French distributor. The European distributor, he was first, and he was connected to us by a colleague who mentioned that it would be a really good party to work with. And that really helped. Once we got that distributor, then we got Frameline, and then we got all of the other things. But it was quite a period before that where it was exciting if we would find either a festival or a distributor that was going to commit to the film. And once that happened, it fell in place on a lot of other places. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, how did you find your main actor? He's absolutely stunning.
Shall I start it?
Yeah.
Well, Bas, the main actor, he was casted on a schoolyard when he was 16 for a different Dutch film, and he never acted before, and he did marvelous. That film went to Berlinale, and he was absolutely fantastic in that, but he had zero experience, and he did quite some smaller roles after that film, and we just contacted him, and we asked him how did you learn to act like this without any education, no training. It was all naturally there, and he told us that he was really good at lying to his mom. He needed to lie to his mom so frequently that he somehow became really good at acting, and we love to work with him. He has this like natural filter of realism. Like you can't tell him to do, like you can't give him any bad directorial assignments. You know, he just doesn't do anything that he doesn't find credible himself, and you can look at him for 90 minutes.
I have a question. Hi, sorry. This is your first like feature film, right? Like fiction, you said.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk in the film industry at the moment about filming intimacy and those scenes, and I'm just curious. I mean, I know that it sounds like you all got on and all that. I'm curious as to how you faced that challenge and how you learned how to do that, because I've always been curious about that and making everybody comfortable, and because there's some pretty intense scenes in the film.
Yeah, there are some intense scenes in the film. You could say that again. Basically, we had 3 different intimacy coaches. And the big darkroom scene, we even had 2 intimacy coaches, one for all of the extras and one for the main actors. So, and you know, it's really, I was a bit of, I can't say really reluctant, but before starting a production, I thought, why would you need an intimacy coach? And especially during the big darkroom scene, I really needed that, because how are you gonna instruct people to do what they do in there? So an intimacy coach can check with all of the extras, like what is okay for you, what are you willing to do. So for everyone, they made a overview. The actors, of course, had to be physical, but there's also a lot of communication with the eyes, and a lot of the narrative between them is happening visually in that same scene. Also, a different person who was checking on that, and that really made it worthwhile. And I thought, after the shot, this is so good, you cannot see that these people are not really having sex. So we got to San Francisco, where we had we did a presentation. How do you say
Conference.
Yeah, we had a conference about intimacy coaches and working with them, and how do you get it? How do you get sex to look so real? And we talked about that with the intimacy coach after the San Francisco gig, and he told us, I checked with them what they were comfortable with. It's all about their own boundaries, and nobody went over their own boundaries, but sometimes it's real. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's quite interesting. Do we have any more questions? Do you have a piece of advice for, I'd say, first-time fiction filmmakers after creating this? Is there something that stuck with you? Like, this is something I've learned. You should know this going in.
Oh yeah, just do it. Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I regret every year that we waited not doing this, trying to get it like financed in a more proper way. Just move forward. And use your naivety, you know, be a bit naive. Think it's not going to be a lot of work or pain or sweat or expensive. You know, forget about that. Pretend it's just a 5-day shoot, and then you do those 5 days, and then you worry about the next 5 days, and then you're almost halfway, and you just keep going.
How long in total was it to shoot? Was it?
It was 30 days.
Okay.
And 18 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And do either of you, having seen it on the big screen today, do you have any moments where you think that's it? That's the moment. Do you have anything that you're super proud of?
That would be a few scenes, especially the longer scenes where you stay in one take, and so like the darkroom scene and the Never Have I Ever scene, where there are moments that you feel okay, now something er ontstaat iets.
Something's happened.
Yeah, they know how to say it properly. Something evolves. Something happens that is not completely planned, not completely scripted. The camera feels a bit unsure. You have this feeling that you might have in a documentary as well, where the camera and the actors all feel this is a moment like a theater that could be on a theater stage. Like it's happening now, you can't do it again, and to have that real energy. As opposed to a scene that you block and you cut into shots, and that is created in a more controlled way.
Yeah, for me the same answer actually. I always enjoy the Never Have I Ever scene with an audience, because every audience responds differently to the moment when it goes bad. I really love the acting there. I love the music by someone there. I really love that. And I was also thinking, right now I really enjoyed the scene in which Tom gets fired from film school because there are two teachers there, and one of them already was in an Oscar-winning film character. But last weekend when the Oscars were here, the other teacher was the main character in the Oscar that won the best short film. So now he's actually being fired by two Oscar
Well, that must hurt.
So I thought so that feels even more hurtful. Yeah.
Yeah, suddenly we have production value, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned that the film is going on Prime for the UK, on Amazon
Yes.
Prime. Yes, and you are working on a documentary.
We are working on another documentary, yeah, which will be released later this year. It's made for Dutch television, like the Dutch equivalent of BBC. But we are also looking at a festival career for that one. So, and then we're right now writing a new film.
Is it in any way related to Out or?
Yes, because that film, it's called Consent, and it's about a situation with an intimacy coach, a very intense sex scene that goes bad.
Oh.
Goes very bad.
Oh wow. So to end on a fun question, do you have an absolute favourite queer film of all time? And if so, which is it?
For me, that is Keep the Lights On by Iris X. It's brilliant, and it was a very big inspiration for me.
For me, that would be La Vida Del,
And
or Blue is the Warmest Color.
yeah.
It's two titles.
Oh, thank you very much for showing your film here, for coming to support. Can we get a round of applause, please?